Okay, so let's talk about atomic structure. This is an atom. The atom at the middle has a nucleus, which is surrounded by shells. Okay, but before we talk about this, let's take a look at the nucleus. Now, the nucleus contains two main items we need to talk about. The first of these are protons. Protons are positively charged, and it's the amount of these that make an atom any particular element. So hydrogen always has one proton. This element has 11 and therefore it's sodium. The second item we need to talk about are neutrons. Now neutrons are also found in the nucleus and they do not have a charge. Okay, it is the protons and neutrons which make an atom weigh anything. This is where all the weight of an atom is found. So let's go back to our original picture of the atom. So in our nucleus we have neutrons and protons, but we need to talk about electrons. Electrons have a negative charge. They're weightless compared to the nucleus and they're found in shells. The first shell holds 2 electrons, the second 8 and the third 8. So it has electron configuration 288. Bonding. Here's our first two elements, lithium and fluorine. Lithium has 3 protons, whilst fluorine has 9. Lithium therefore has 3 electrons and fluorine has 9 electrons. Now, to fill their outermost shell, it's easier for lithium to lose an electron, but it's easier for fluorine to gain. So in ionic bonding, lithium donates an electron to fluorine. But remember, electrons are negatively charged. Atoms usually have equal numbers of protons and electrons, so they don't have an overall charge. So if they lose an electron, they have more protons and electrons and become positive. But if they gain an electron, they have more electrons and protons and become negative. So more protons makes a positive ion, more electrons makes a negative ion. So if they lose electrons, they become positive, gain electrons become negative. So lithium becomes positive because it loses an electron, fluorine becomes negative. That's because lithium usually has 3 electrons and 3 protons, so they cancel each other out. There's no charge. But if it loses an electron, it has 1 more proton than it does electrons. So overall, there's a 1 plus charge left on the ion, making it Li plus. Fluorine, on the other hand, usually has 9 electrons, and it also therefore has 9 protons. But in the ionic bonding between fluorine and lithium, it gains an electron. So when it gains an electron, it has 1 more electron than it does protons. So it becomes F minus of 1 minus charge. So lithium becomes positive, fluorine becomes negative. And because positives go to negatives, this creates an electrostatic attraction, causing ionic bonding. Covalent bonding. To begin with, we need a chlorine atom. It has 17 electrons, 17 protons, and is a halogen found in group 7. So the first shell holds 2 electrons, the second 8, and in chlorine it's 7 in the third shell, so it needs to gain an electron to become stable. It does this by sharing electrons with other chlorine atoms. So this diagram shows the outer electrons in 2 chlorine atoms, and they come together to share 1 electron each. So now each element has 8 electrons. This is called a covalent bond. Now a covalent bond is always between 2 nonmetals and is the sharing of electrons. We can work out how many bonds an element can make by finding out which group the element is in and then take the group number away from 8. So for example, carbon. Carbon is in group 4. So 8 minus 4 equals 4. Therefore, carbon can make 4 bonds. Let's take a look at carbon. Carbon has 4 electrons in its outer shell. So it can make a covalent bond at any one of these electrons. So there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, and there's 5 carbon atoms. Now the center one has 8 electrons. So we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So this carbon has a full outer shell. But remember, all the other carbons in this can do the same. So eventually we get carbons bonding with other carbons covalently, making a giant covalent structure. Okay, these are such as diamond and graphite, which are both made of carbon.